As journalists and television hosts, scripts are a lifeline. Each newscast, each story, it all revolves around a script.
But now it's time to go unscripted. That means we're not just going off script, we're throwing out the script altogether.
Each week, we're joined by fellow Farm Journal hosts and editors to peel back the layers on stories we've shared throughout the week.
Unscripted. It's real, it's raw, it's entertaining, and it's your chance to meet the personalities behind the personalities. I'm Tyne Morgan.
And I'm Clinton Griffiths. Welcome to Unscripted.
Here we are, Clinton. Another week. Can you believe we're about to enter June?
Oh my gosh. And if I forget to tell you, Merry Christmas, because by the time we turn around, it's going to be Christmas time again.
It does feel
like
way.
it's going to snow. I got to get a jacket.
Well, you know what? It was so cold last weekend and last week. I mean, Memorial Day really didn't feel like Memorial Day for some areas. We were in Texas, and it was 100 degrees there. The girls got to swim. It was awesome. But the second we passed Oklahoma City driving home, I just watched the temperature drop and drop. And by the time we got back to Missouri, it was 57, rainy. I mean, it was just cold and nasty.
Yeah, it has been. We're still playing baseball, and so it has been like up and down. And I wore a jacket and a coat to games over the weekend and this week. But then yesterday was just gorgeous, just beautiful weather. So I'm like, finally, one game. We're almost to June. Why not? Don't have to wear a coat for the evening game. It's ridiculous.
Well, it seems like Mother Nature's bringing the heat next week. So we're about to warm up. And speaking of bringing the heat,
I knew that was going to be your transition. I knew you were going to transition to that.
Bringing the heat. That is our guest this week. He is a Texan by birth, an Aggie by blood. Let's welcome to the podcast this weekend, Colin Woodall, head of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Colin.
Hey, Colin.
Welcome. It's great to be with you two. I mean, two legends in farm broadcasting right here, and I get to be between you. It's awesome.
Listen, I'm going to actually transcribe what you just said, send it to our boss, because I'm hoping that comes with a raise.
There you go.
The term legend loosely.
Yeah, exactly.
Colin, let me ask you this, because I ask a lot of people this whenever we bring them on and we start. How in the world did you get started in doing the job that you do? Because I'm trying to think back. I think I've been interviewing you now for, and I'm not going to date both of us, but 15 years. Like it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, I tell you what, 21 years with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, 15 of those in our Washington, D.C. office, 6 now in the Denver office as the CEO, and time has just absolutely flown by. I can't believe it. And what's interesting, I was working on Capitol Hill. I was working for a U.S. senator from Texas, and the NCBA guys used to come and lobby me on different issues. And one day they came in and said, hey, we're getting ready to hire new lobbyists. We think you should apply. I applied for the job, was lucky enough to get it because it was pretty tense competition for that, and got the job, started at the bottom rung, and have just been able to work my way up since then.
Where exactly did you grow up in Texas, Colin?
I'm from Big Spring, Texas. So Big Spring is about 100 miles south of Lubbock.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Out there in God's country, I believe, is how they define it.
Well, and they may not be getting rain. Weekend we were in Graham, Texas, which is south of Wichita Falls, and I mean the rain there, Colin, has been impressive. I mean it's so green, and I heard person after person talk about that, how green it is right now because they've received so much rain. So good for them. The Panhandle, and I know where you grew up, still needs a lot of rain. But Clinton and I were talking. Now we're past Memorial Day. We are now at the unofficial kickoff of grilling season. I mean,
you can smell it out the window. Got something cooking already.
Yeah, this is like the championship for meat demand right now. And as we head into the summer months, Colin, how do you feel about meat demand? I mean, are you confident that it will be as strong as it has been in years past?
Oh, it is and will continue to be so. It is amazing what demand has done. And it's all about the quality of the product that we're putting out there right now. Americans today can get prime graded product in their local grocery store, where 5, 6, 10 years ago, you couldn't find it. You could only get that in a white tablecloth experience. And now they can get it at their local grocery store. And that quality, that eating experience is what keeps them paying the price that they're paying right now, because we're giving them what they want. And as long as we can continue to do that, I think the future is bright for us.
Yeah. Well, Colin, I know you mentioned the price, and listen, with the cattle industry, finally, and I want to say finally, has seen some decent prices here over the last, and some record prices here over the last year or two. What is that looking like as we start to like project this out? How, I know we had Randy Block on last week and talking about whether or not we're rebuilding the cow herd or if that's even started. What are you guys seeing from your view of what that looks like?
Yeah, we're seeing a couple more years of really good prices for cattle producers, and we need that. It has been a long slog, and everything that we saw through the pandemic, we need an opportunity to heal up. And if you have grass, if you have water and cattle, then it's a good time to make a little money. But unfortunately, not everybody has water, not everybody has grass. So this is not something that everybody in the industry is being able to take advantage of, and that is concerning. Yes, we're getting some good rains in some parts of the country, a lot of green grass out there. There's still a lot of brown grass out there. So not to the point that I think anybody is willing to say, hey, we are rebuilding the herd. We're not there quite yet. But if you do have those resources, there is money to be made. And again, we have to focus on maintaining that quality, maintaining that demand. So that way, when more of the country does have a chance to heal up and we can regrow that herd, we can do it while still making some money. Because that's always the question, right? Is when you rebuild that herd, what does that do to prices? If we can maintain and grow demand, then maybe we can mitigate some of what we traditionally see in a typical cattle cycle.
Yeah, right. Tyne, I want to ask it. Do either of you, can you believe that there's such a thing as the carnivore diet? Like, what a great trend for the livestock industry. And it's everywhere. I see it posted all over.
Well, and my question, Colin, for a lot of economists is have we got to a point that price, for me, it's inelastic. The demand's inelastic. I mean, it does not matter how high prices are. I saw a story, kind of this fear mongering on one of the national news outlets about beef prices are so high going into summer and how bad this is for consumers. And we know it's a challenge with higher prices, but it doesn't seem to be impacting demand, Colin.
I tell you, I've got a Safeway that's in my little town that I live in. And if you're not there by 6 o'clock on Saturday, you're not getting ground beef. It's gone. It's out.
Really?
And if you want a tri-tip, you better get there early. If you want a filet, you better get there early. It's not just the ground beef. It's amazing how if you go later in the evening, that meat case is just cleaned out. So it does go to your point, Tyne, that the demand continues to be there. They're willing to pay the price. And again, it's all about the quality. They know that they're going to have that steak. They're going to have that brisket. They're going to have that roast. And they're going to walk away saying, man, that was awesome. I want another.
Yeah, when we look at the push for Maha, I know when that initial report came out, I was a little confused by the reaction from ag groups, because when we looked at the report, it seemed better than what some had feared. Yet the reaction from the ag industry, Colin, was so harsh. And I know there's some studies there that they referenced, and there's some concerns about linking some of the tools that farmers use, linking that to some health issues. But when you look at the Maha movement and the impact on beef and the impact on the cattle industry, it seems to bode well. I mean, when you look at a natural, wholesome product, beef seems to fit right into what Maha is trying to accomplish.
Secretary Kennedy has been out there multiple times in public telling people to eat more beef. I don't think we can argue with that. No. And you go back to Thanksgiving, and he posted a little video on social media where he was frying his turkey in beef tallow. And now people want beef tallow. So when you look at Maha, we know that war on fat seems to be over. Everything that we dealt with in the 80s and the 90s, it is switched. And people are realizing what we have known all along is that beef, all cuts of beef, is healthy for you. It's good for you. It's a part of that daily diet, not just a couple of times a week, but that daily diet. And what we're seeing from Maha, and what we're seeing with Senator Kennedy's comments, I think really reinforces all of that.
But there's only one right answer to the question I'm about to ask you. But do you feel like I look younger?
You look so much younger, Tyne.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. The reason I'm asking is I've started using beef tallow on my face. And I am telling you. So the one rule at my house is I have a 9 and 10-year-old, and for some reason their skincare regimen is more expensive and better than mine. But my one rule is the few things that I have, you can't touch, right? Well, the other day I take off the lid and I go to put it on, and my youngest, my 9-year-old, goes, "Mom, what is that you're using?" And I said, "It's beef tallow." And she goes, "Mom, it smells awful." And I said, "So that means that you've used it." But I told her the point is, and it has lavender and it does not smell that bad. But I said, it's not all fruity like the stuff that you guys are putting on your face. But my point for that, Colin, is people aren't just eating more beef. I mean, I have spoken to a number of people who are using beef tallow now. We're getting back to some of that. And the craze is incredible.
Well, look at the number of people who've been eating red meat their entire lives, and they're 90, 100 years old. We know that beef, all meat, of course, we're focused on beef. Beef has been a staple of the diet for centuries.
Yeah.
And we know that meat works for us and our bodies excel in meat. That's why this carnivore diet continues to kick up. And in all of the diet crazes over the years that have had that protein focus, beef has had a great opportunity to capitalize on that. And with the studies that are out there that help support our role in the diet, that's why things like the Maha report and what we expect to see as far as changes to the dietary guidelines later this year will be very pro-beef, in particular, pro-meat. But of course, at NCBA, we talk beef all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what we ought to do, Tyne, is get into some talking tea, and we can ask Colin a little bit more about what's on his radar for the rest of this year there in Washington. No, we, talking tea, sitting around. This is the water cooler conversation. So we have this Maha report. It came out, kind of got that bias. We've had this reconciliation bill that now is in the Senate. Now, maybe there's some farm bill stuff in there. Maybe there isn't. We don't know. What is on your radar of hot topics for second half of 2025?
New World Screwworm, New World Screwworm, and more New World Screwworm.
Absolutely.
We're spending a tremendous amount of time worried about that, watching this, trying to be prepared, because we haven't had to worry about this in over 50 years.
Yeah.
And now we have this looming threat of this fly coming in, and the larvae of this fly, they are flesh-eating parasites. And what it could do to our industry, and not just our industry, but any warm-blooded animal that could host this, is going to be absolutely devastating if we can't control it and effectively fight back against it.
Colin, last we heard, it was detected 700 miles from the U.S. border. Way too close for comfort. I thought it was much farther than that. So is there any update? Has it moved any closer, or do we still think it's 700 miles away?
It's still about 700 miles away.
Okay.
But again, to your point, Tyne, that is way too close for comfort. And that's why we are really stepping up our campaign to bring awareness to what this fly is and what its larva does to not only cattle, but all warm-blooded animals, and how we have to start getting prepared now to fight back. Because as we see it right now, it has already breached that line at the Isthmus of Mexico. That isthmus is that narrow point down in the south. It crosses between the Gulf and the Pacific, hits the states of Oaxaca and Veracruz. That was the best opportunity to try to stop it one last time from moving north. And we know flies have gone beyond that. So the question really is, when will we see the flies arrive in Texas? Because Texas is at the tip of the spear. They will be the ones that get it first. And there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of just lack of information that's out there that's making that very difficult. We do know that USDA is sending some teams down into Mexico here over the next couple of weeks to try to get a better assessment of what's really going on the ground. Because the way to address this issue is to get sterile flies into the wild to stop the breeding of these flies and start pushing them back south.
How has the cooperation been thus far, do you feel like, with the counterparts in Mexico as we try to get this thing stopped? I mean, and it's not, say, rocket science, but I mean, we're breeding sterile flies that go in and disrupt, the propagation of this in the wild. And so it's not exactly a perfect science either. But it takes a little bit of a blunt force to be able to do that. And so my question is, how we heard early there was, maybe some either miscommunication or some challenges in getting cooperation. What are you hearing now?
So nature actually gave us a favor, and that favor is that the female New World Screwworm fly only mates once. So that's why the sterile fly program is effective at getting those into the wild to stop further propagation of that fly. But you have to get them in the wild. And that requires flying airplanes in with these flies and their larvae and just dropping them out of airplanes, literally getting them out there. And unfortunately, in Mexico, we have not had the kind of cooperation that we had hoped for, because everybody knew that line that I talked about, that line across Veracruz and Oaxaca, was the best place to stop it, to protect not only us, but to protect the producers in Mexico. You know, we have a great relationship with the producers in Mexico. And here in the United States, our industry really relies on a lot of the feeder cattle coming into Mexico to keep feedlots in the South and packing plants in the South full and operating. So we need that cross trade or cross-border trade. But we had a lot of hurdles thrown at us in the terms of paperwork that nobody seemed to know about, the hurdles of getting paperwork approved, planes that couldn't land because of those hurdles. And when those planes couldn't land, those flies ended up dying on the plane. They never even made it out into the wild. So we lost opportunities to slow this critter down because of that lack of cooperation. And that's what led to a lot of the action that the Secretary has taken. Secretary Rollins has been extremely active in this issue. She is a tremendous leader in helping protect us. And that's why she closed the border, is because she also wasn't seeing what she wanted out of the Mexican government. I think that sent a very clear signal to them that they need to step up their game. Our understanding is they are doing much better now, but that's why they're sending the teams from the FDA down there here in a couple of weeks, just to verify and get us a good on-the-ground picture of what we're seeing.
Colin, before Secretary Rollins took that action to close the border, and from what you say, it was obviously needed because Mexico wasn't doing enough, would you say it was a lack of cooperation, or was there also corruption?
Oh, I tell you, there have been any number of stories out there that run the gamut, from just people who didn't know what was going on, to people who didn't take it serious enough, to people who were asking for, some facilitation payments to make things happen. So it's kind of run that gamut out there. And there's a lot of stories running across the board, but it comes down to one thing: is they had an opportunity and the planes couldn't land. That's what we know. The planes couldn't land. And because of that, flies died that could have been doing their duty down on the ground, and that did not happen. And so that is why we have the situation we're dealing with here today.
Interesting. Tyne, I don't think you and I have even talked about it. So my dad grew up on a ranch in southern New Mexico, and I was having a conversation with him about this, and he goes, "Oh, we had those back in the 50s and 60s. 60s on the ranch." And he goes, he remembers the sterile fly program and how that made such a difference. But they'd pull these cattle out of the mountains, and they'd have these big open sores and wounds and all kinds of stuff. And it's bad. It was a really serious health concern, and I think that's, the thing that we need to remember is, like, we don't want this here. Like, this isn't something that we want to show up, because it would take a lot of time to try to get our arms around it.
It takes a lot of management. You have to be in amongst your cattle on a daily basis to monitor for the flies, the eggs, the larvae, the wounds. Now, the good news is we can treat this. There are products out there to help us heal these cattle up, but you have to find them, and find them fast, because if the larvae get into these cattle, you can kill that animal in 4 to 7 days. So that's
oh, wow, 4 to 7 days. I didn't realize that.
To kill the animal. And that's why you've got to be in there and find it fast. And again, this is two things. One, Clinton, you mentioned it. This is an animal health issue. We need to be very clear that people understand this is not a food safety issue. We talked earlier about the quality of our product. This is not a food safety issue, but this is a significant animal health issue. And it's not just for us. You think about the wildlife out there, the wildlife that aren't going to be seen by humans, and how they'll be able to transmit it. And of course, that also has a huge economic impact to the hunting community, and also to a lot of our members who have diversified their operations by having hunting. So to lose your wildlife is yet another economic hit that we could see to our members, cattle producers, if we have to deal with screwworms. And also, it's not just that. This can be dogs. This can be cats. it can get into people. So anything that is warm-blooded could be a host for this flesh-eating parasite.
Colin, I know NCBA is working hard to, not only, of course, the policy side, make sure that all the tools are in place, that we ramp up efforts here in case it does end up here domestically, but also the education side. What is this? Since you said it's been 50 years since we've had to deal with it, so the education side. Unfortunately, this week we saw a false headline hit that it was showed up. We had NWS here in Missouri, which I saw that. I'm like, Missouri, why wouldn't it be in Texas first? A little confused. But then we found out that report was false. It was a small radio station in Missouri that reported that. They must have found it somewhere. And then, I don't know. I haven't got the backstory on that yet. But nonetheless, the algos picked it up. And cattle prices tanked. And so we know that was a false story this week. But as you look at some of these headlines that have hit about New World Screwworm, what has been the biggest misleading headline that you've read or seen so far, Colin?
Well, it was really that story out of Missouri that it was here because it sent everybody into a panic. But, that wasn't the only one. There was a video that was going around through social media of looked like a steer that had chunks of its hind quarter missing because of screwworms, and people were saying that was on the south side of the Rio Grande, just right across the river from Texas. That also was false. So just trying to get a good handle on the facts behind this has been one of our biggest challenges because we don't have boots on the ground right there from NCBA. We're relying on USDA and these teams going in to get us kind of that picture of what we're seeing. And I think as we have a better idea of what that true northward march looks like, that will help calm a lot of people down. Also, making sure producers know that there are products out there to heal up these cattle, to kill those larvae. And with the sterile fly approach, we know that we will eradicate this again. We just have to make sure we have enough flies out there. And that's one of our challenges right now is how do we get a domestic sterile fly production facility up and running here in the United States that we can control to make sure that we have the availability of those flies and then can use our folks to get those out, to distribute them and make sure that we are as effective as possible at getting them out in the wild.
Colin,
has that work started?
That work has started. So
Okay.
we do know that the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service at USDA has looked at several sites. We know that there's one down in South Texas that looks to be very favorable. So we are pushing to make sure that Congress can be supportive, that we can get the money to get this thing up and running, and also try to look at other technologies. There's been a lot of discussion about how genetic engineering could play a role here in trying to find a different way to sterilize these flies. We're going to look at every option possible because we have to get rid of this thing. This is not something that can become endemic to the United States. We have to eradicate it from here. We need to eradicate it from Mexico. We need to eradicate it from Central America. We need to push this thing all the way back down to South America, which is where it was.
You mentioned treatment. I heard this week that ivermectin works for treatment. Is that true?
Yeah, ivermectin is very effective at treatment and in killing those larvae and helping heal up those wounds.
Hopefully we don't have to use that, but the fact that there is something that can treat it is promising. All right, I know that you need to head out, but Colin, what do you want livestock producers to know right now? I mean, cattle prices are so high; it's almost scary how high they are. We're kind of looking into what are some long-term impacts of the industry that we could potentially see from this. But as you look ahead, what do you want cattle producers to know for the second half of this year?
Yeah, there's always concerns out there. Everybody's talking about the next black swan event. And for us, it's the next black fly event. But I think the big message is we still have to be optimistic about where this industry is going. Our quality is good. The demand is out there. The consumer is with us. We are seeing this renewed focus on beef being good for you across the board, whether it's steak or whether it's tallow. So we have tremendous opportunities at home and abroad to be successful and try to be as profitable as possible. And while, yes, the New World Screwworm is a concern, we do have technologies. We do have ways to control it and ultimately eradicate it. So while everybody needs to be aware, they don't need to panic. And that's the thing we want everybody to understand. This is not a situation where you need to panic. We are far from that. And there's still a lot of opportunities we have to get prepared here, to make sure that we mitigate the impact of the fly as much as possible. And that's what NCBA is leading on.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Colin. I know just the depth and breadth of your knowledge for 21 years of kind of holding down the fort there is really broad. So always appreciate you being willing to jump on, answer questions. And Tyne, we talk to a lot of folks that do this job, and I will say, Colin never shies away from a question, and I love that about you, and I appreciate it about you, Colin, because from time to time, there's just things we don't want to talk about, but you've always been game to say, hey, I don't care. Ask me. We'll talk it out. We'll go through it. No problem. And so, appreciate that about you, and really looking forward to seeing, what the second half of 2025 means for cattle producers. It's kind of an exciting time, once you get past this screwworm issue.
Well, this has been a great time. Thanks for having me, and I'll sit between the two of you anytime you want me to.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Colin.
Y'all take care.
Yeah.
All right, Clinton, let's go ahead and let's scoot into our next segment.
Let's do it.
I think, one of my what the segments, I've got a couple, but one of my what the it goes back to that false report this week about New World Screwworm and what happened in the markets. And, I asked Mike North of Ever Ag, I asked him about that for the show this weekend. And he said, what's interesting about it is New World Screwworm is actually, unfortunately, bullish for the markets. You think, Colin's saying, what did he say? 4 days?
Yeah.
It's and like I said, I hope we don't deal with this, but it's actually bullish for the markets. But what I thought was interesting with the headline this week is how did, somebody put that seed out there in the market? And so was it cattle traders? Was it somebody like that? I don't know, but it's interesting to see the reaction from the market. And it's just a reminder that when we have cattle prices this high, any headline that gets traded in the market is going to inject extreme volatility. And that's what we saw this week, Clinton.
Well, you're exactly right. When prices run up to record highs, and you pick a commodity, I don't care which one, there's always the chance it can run the other direction. And so you get that volatility back and forth. And so anytime that there is some sort of, industry adjusting headline, you're going to see movement like that. And so, it's just, listen, we watch this stuff every day. We track the markets. We keep up with what's happening, and most days it's just pretty standard, mundane, up and down a little bit here and there, but once in a while something hits that's newsy news, and things will just take off. And it's even more exacerbated even more in situations like this where you have such high prices because they have so far to come down.
Yeah, and you can't believe everything you see on social media. I think we learned that,
can't.
and you've got to triple check some of these things right now before. And that's why sometimes, we're not going to be the first to report it, but when we report it, we make sure that it's fact. And so that's kind of
that's exactly right. Like you have to, with stories like this, you have to double check and triple check sources and make sure you verify, because there are livelihoods at risk here, right? Like it's important to get your stuff right. Everybody wants to be first, but it's also important to make sure that you've double and triple checked and you get it all correct.
Yeah, as somebody told me this week, one false headline and cattle producers lost a lot of money that day. And so, just a reminder that some of these stories unfortunately move the headlines. The other thing is apparently the CFTC is pushing to have 24/7 trading. Okay, Clinton.
Yep,
So,
heard that.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And most market analysts that I talk to say this would be a horrible idea. We have to give the market time. We have to give it a break. So if you're talking 7 days a week, you're not giving the market a break. But when I asked my analysts last weekend, so not this weekend, but last week on the show, what they thought, both of them said it would be horrible. But Dwayne Bussey of Bolt Marketing, he had something interesting to say, because he said, we've tried these longer trading hours. We tried that in the livestock market, but here's, listen to what he had to say.
Okay.
You think about the volatility sometimes that we do see overnight. What would, if we had 24/7 agricultural futures trading, what do you think it would mean?
Yeah, I agree with Brian. I think it'd be horrible. And I don't want to sound lazy, like I don't want to work, but I think the trading hours are actually too long right now. We have this kind of long pauses in between market news that the market just gets pushed and shoved by algos and volume traders, and that makes what I would call kind of wrong technical pictures on the chart. So I think it would be a mistake. I mean, I remember Brian mentioned the cattle market when that traded 24/7, or I think it was actually 23 hours out of the day. I still hear stories about this bar in Kansas that a bunch of cowboys would trade in the overnight session. And because the volume was so light and no one was trading, they could move the market themselves just in that little bar. So no, I'm not in favor of it at all.
Can you imagine being in that bar? I mean, just like hanging out, watching them just push the market around. But that's not the first time I've heard that from somebody saying that the volumes aren't enough at certain times a day that you can actually move it. And
That's
let's
point.
let's talk about the function, right? The function of the market is to add some liquidity overall and allow farmers to use it as a protection and a hedge, right? And so you can take some of the risk off the table because you can price some of your commodities ahead of time. And it works great in a lot of situations, but things like this, you know, if it's meant for the livestock industry, boy, it has a lot of people scratching their heads, I think.
Now, I could not confirm what Dwayne said, so it did not air on our shows. But when, yeah, but when he said that, I was like, what? Afterwards, I go, Dwayne, is that true? And Brian goes, Tyne, I've heard that too. The point is the volume was so light at times that group of cowboys could sit in a bar and move the markets the way they wanted to move it. And so that's just when you think about what 24/7 agricultural trading would do. It would add more volatility, not less. And the other thing that some of these groups are saying,
Right.
the National Grain and Feed Association, one reason they said they were against it is it would add costs. It would add more costs. And so when you look at the benefits and when you look at the challenges, the benefits don't outweigh the challenges, and that's why some of these groups, and they National Grain and Feed Association, they represent some of these big commercial groups. They said, that's why we're against it. It's going to add more volatility and it's going to add more costs. This would be a horrible idea. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Do you have a what the Sigma?
Yeah, I do. I have a what the Sigma because I just love the internet. I love getting on and seeing stories just pop, and then everyone's like, what in the world? And so the one that caught my eye this week was about the USDA employee and 5 others charged in a multi-million-dollar food stamp fraud and bribery scheme. This was from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Southern District of New York, charging this case. And they're saying they misappropriated tens of millions of taxpayer funds and dollars that was meant to help people that need it and put food on their table. And they were basically giving stuff to criminals and selling it so they could go and use it. And I mean, they racked up millions. I think I saw a number of $30 million at one point in fraud on this thing. So this is wild. But, I think we knew some of this stuff was going on. And we know that, whenever there's opportunity, there are people that take advantage. And so obviously this case has to get charged and, everything has to be, heard by a court and a judge and everything else. But it's just interesting to see some of the things. And Brooke Rollins, Secretary Rollins, came out and she put on X, she goes, not on my watch. And I just thought that's interesting. I don't think we saw things like that from previous administrations.
Either side of the aisle.
Absolutely. Either side of the aisle. It's been a very forward and transparent, I feel like, conversation from her as she's been out there. So
she
I don't
also
know.
thanked the Attorney General. She thanked some of these other partners in investigating some of this. And Clinton, that's one thing as they look at investigating fraud in SNAP. We've got fraud going on in SNAP. We've seen fraud in crop insurance. I mean, there's fraud anywhere you look. But I've heard Rollins say the amount of fraud that happens within SNAP is really unfathomable. And when they kind of peel back the layers and they look at some of this fraud that is happening, I heard a story from someone that in some places, there's gas station owners that will go into Aldi. They'll use their EBT card and buy chips or buy them, and then they mark it up in their gas stations and sell it at a higher price. And so when you look at some of the fraud that's happening, it's not everywhere. We know this program is meant, it does good in a lot of areas. But her point is, if you're a working able body, this program is not designed for you, and we are having too many people take advantage of that. Not only take advantage of that, but we are having too many cases of fraud happen. And so when you look at SNAP and preserving what SNAP was meant to do, it'll be interesting to see how we balance that, because it's a fight right now in Washington. You look at the one big beautiful bill, you look at SNAP being targeted in that, and how do you balance some of that? And they're saying the amount of money right now that we have in that, we can scale that back, because it is, in some locations, this is being used not in the way that it's intended, and the fraud that is happening is, as they uncover some of that, that's leading to these high costs. And so we'll see what ends up happening, but it is a fight.
It is so important for some families, and there are people out there that need the help. And I think
it's crucial.
Anytime that you can make sure that the money is going to the legitimate people that need it, I think is the most important thing we can do. Hungry kids and hungry families isn't great. And so if we have a program like this and it's meant to help people, then we should help people. But finding folks that are taking advantage of it and skimming millions of dollars out of the program, I'm not in favor of it. So it'll be interesting to see how that case moves forward and what else they find in terms of, fraud and abuse. I know that's been a big focus over the first 4 or 5 months here. But no, that was my What the Sigma for this week, Tyne.
All right, let's head into our next segment real quick, and we'll wrap on this. Hey, Zach, can you come in, please?
Producer Zach, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
He loves when I do this to him. Your hair and makeup looks good.
Plans for this.
Hey, I sent you a tweet. Did you download it?
You did not send me a tweet.
I did, but it was highlighted in black, so you may not have seen it because it looked like it was buried. Okay, I just wanted to know if you did it. If not, I'll speak to it.
Is this a
Glenn sent you a live link. What?
Is this a tweet with Zach's picture in it? No. Is this a mugshot, Zach? Do we have something we need to talk about?
Zach, I didn't say we were done with you. Where did you go?
He's like, I'm off of here.
Yes, that's it.
Here we go.
Wagner with Mamma Mia.
Oh, well, isn't very good. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Brooklyn.
Let's just watch it one more time.
Mamma Mia.
Sound up.
Wow.
Wow.
No, they have to measure 3 jumps, right?
Okay.
And then it's the speed of the 3 jumps.
This just happened, okay? This frog jumping contest in California at one of the biggest fairs. It doesn't draw people just from other states. It draws people from around the world. So this weekend on the show, Andrew McCrae did the backstory of it, because it actually it's to pay tribute to a story that helped one famous author by the name of Mark Twain get his start. Okay, so they have this contest, and it's an annual event, and it just happened. And so as I'm reading the intro, I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. But when you hear about something and in your mind you're picturing it, and it does not match up with what actually happened. So last night I was laying in bed, and what do I do when I lay in bed? I scroll through X, and I see this video pop up of the frog jumping contest, and this girl screaming at it and on hands and knees. And I'm like, that is not what I envisioned for this contest. I didn't even know it happened. Frog jumping. I think we need to make this a date next year and go.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I understand, okay, it's a contest, and I think there's some sort of there's a pretty good prize money for this thing in there. And
I don't know. I'll have to...
world record at stake. And I think this young lady actually turned some heads. Her technique was pretty spot on in getting that frog to move. Of course,
turn some heads, brought from counties away. Did you hear how loud she was yelling at that frog?
He was screaming at that frog.
They have like 4,000 contestants is what I'm reading.
4,000.
which this seems like a little old, but it says $5,000 if their frog were to break the 1986 record of 21 feet and 5 3/4 inches set by Rosie the Riveter. I mean, this is on Wikipedia. So
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about the names for the frogs. Oh,
yeah, no, this is Wikipedia. So I just want you to know I have not confirmed any of this. But our old coworker, Annalisa, her mom runs the fair. And
yes.
I did not know that this was so big.
Well, it's a big deal. It's Tyne. It's an absolutely big deal. I just can't believe you never knew about this.
You did?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I actually had heard of it before, but I haven't seen a lot of young ladies screaming at their frogs or videos of it.
Yeah, well, that's why when I saw it, I'm like, no way, this is real. That's what we're airing on the show this weekend. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, as our friend Wes Mills would say. This does say that the event was inspired by the Mark Twain story and it has been held annually in that California county since 1928. Talk about tradition. And listen, Clinton,
Yeah.
I love me some tradition.
Hey, what did you have any weird events or festivals where you grew up? Because where I grew up in Deming, New Mexico, we had the Deming duck races. And so we had a race where the people would get ducks and they would race them a little bit like this. And it was an annual event.
You have a lot of ducks down there?
No, of course
I didn't
not.
think you even had water.
We don't. But it was a duck race. Anyway, the winner one time ended up on Johnny Carson.
What?
Yes, I know. Random.
We have the Northern Soybean Festival.
Oh, okay.
It's the soybean
Sure.
festival of the world.
Do you race the soybeans?
No, but we have a soybean king and queen.
Dump them?
And the king, you don't know who the king is until the parade happens. Well, this used to be the case. The parade happens and they're in a giant soybean pod. I don't think this is anymore, but they're in a giant soybean pod. And then at the end, at the where the grand marshal sets his stuff, then the pod opens and the soybean king steps out. And then a golden light shines, not the golden light. I'm just trying to get you to mention it. But anyway, and that's how you know the soybean king is. But
This was.
I am telling you, if you've never been to the Northern Soybean
I
Festival,
have not.
mark your calendar.
Okay.
It's the first weekend, I think, in August or second weekend. It's in the beginning of August. Okay.
Okay.
And the beer garden, I'm telling you, top notch time. You won't.
Is it-
You will not.
Is it made out of
forget.
soybeans? Is the beer made out of soybeans?
No, but
Yeah. it would be weird.
there's nothing better than a pitcher of beer at the Northern Soybean Festival when it's hot as
Seeing the
heck.
king jump out of a pod.
When it's hot as heck in August, and you're surrounded by farmers. I mean, it's Northern is
that's
a big farming community, and so the soybean
See,
festival.
Tyne, this is the stuff I don't think people that don't live in the U.S. or live in America or aren't from here, they don't get. Like this is the stuff I think that makes the country absolutely unique and original and different. And I just, we don't really, as society, we don't talk about it enough, in my humble opinion. The rural festivals, rural country events that we do that just don't get enough attention.
Yeah,
You want to meet Americans? Go there. Go to the
it's so
soybean
fun.
festival.
I'm telling you, you've got to go to the soybean festival, and if you do, let me know. Love to meet you. But next time you see James Clinton, ask him about the time I left him at the soybean festival.
Well, we will have to save that story for the week of the soybean festival.
Let's just say we weren't on the same timeline and leaving. Okay.
Well, he probably spent a little extra time at the beer garden, I'm guessing.
Yes, he was enjoying his conversation, and I had the girls, and you can't take
And it was hot,
kids.
and you were ready to go.
You can't take kids in the soybean festival. This is not Sweet Home Alabama, where you take your babies to a bar. That is not what happens. You cannot take kids into the soybean or into the beer gardens after a certain time.
Look at you. You just referenced a movie. Look at you.
Okay, just so everybody knows.
Like the first time.
Okay,
It's like the
just so
first time
everybody-
ever.
I had to
Just
think
watched
about it.
One movie.
Just so everyone knows, so you can know the backstory here in the inside joke. This is really bad job security, but I don't watch a lot of television and I do not watch a lot of movies. And so Clinton and everyone else in our office they are movie and
I do
TV
enjoy a
series.
good movie and
And
a
that
good TV show.
which is wonderful. And so they give quotes all the time. They make movie references all the time. And so what I had to tell our head of production, Mike Byers, when we first started working together, and I was seeing that he was referencing a lot of movies, and then he would say, have you ever seen such and such? And I just said, Mike, okay, let's just start every conversation with the with the thought that I haven't seen it. Okay.
With the
And once
assumption, I have no idea.
just assume I have never seen the movie, and this conversation will go a lot smoother. And so he makes fun of me about
Tyne,
it.
let's
And
play
so-
a game. Let's play a game. I'm gonna say some movies, and you tell me whether you've seen them or not seen them.
Okay, let's
Okay?
go.
Okay. Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Okay. Mission Impossible.
Do I have to have watched it all the way through?
Yes, you have
Okay,
to
then
watch
no.
it all the way through.
No.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I just couldn't get I couldn't
The
get into it.
Wire.
What's that?
Oh my gosh, it's one of the best. It's one of the best shows of all time.
Okay, keep
It's
going.
one of the best shows of
No.
all time. Dexter.
No.
Oh my gosh, so many great things.
Hey,
I'm trying to
ask
think
me
of-
Ted Lasso.
Have you seen Ted Lasso?
Oh, it's my favorite. It's my favorite. And we've got big news here. We've got big news here in Kansas City, okay? Because at the end of the last season of Ted Lasso,
Yes.
he leaves and goes back home
To Wichita.
to Kansas
Yeah.
or to the United States. And he
Yes.
actually, the actor, which I'm not good with actor names, but he grew up in Kansas City. Jason
Sudeikis.
Sudeikis. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Sudeikis, I don't know how to. Anyway.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So-
Jason Sudeikis. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so he leaves. Well, guess what? In July, they are filming an episode of Ted Lasso here in
You gotta be an extra, Tyne.
Kansas City.
You got to be an extra.
It's my moment.
Get out there and do it.
It's my moment. Yep, in July, and I have a connection there, so we're gonna go watch, and hopefully watch them film. But they're going to do it at the new women's soccer stadium that we have. Apparently, Patrick Mahomes may be in it. I don't know about Travis Kelce. I'm giving you guys the backstory here.
Oh
But
man, you are
happening
really giving us the
in
tea now.
July,
The
which
dirt.
phenomenal for the just the economy here in Kansas City. You talk about how much excitement and how much money that's going to bring in just one episode of Ted Lasso. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome. Well, you know what? We'll continue. If other people have videos or movies that they like, put them there, and we'll see if Tyne knows those in the next episode, or has watched them. And pretty sure, 90-10 that she hasn't.
I don't know, but if it's Disney movies because of the girls,
Well, that doesn't. No,
that doesn't count.
Well, I mean, I guess it does, but yeah, I'm talking about like movies that you would watch as
Yeah.
growing up. Anchorman. Did you ever see Anchorman?
Yeah.
Didn't like it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All
I mean, it's got some great quotes and it's hilarious.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'm just going back to the fact that I'm realizing that I need to step up the movie
Yeah.
game
Well,
and watch.
all right. You're
watch
you're
them.
doing so many good things, Tyne. So many good things, and I think we did a good thing here. I think we've talked it out. I think we did.
Colin
It.
was interesting.
He's really interesting.
I love
He's
that
always interesting.
backstory on New World. I mean, I know when that first hit in I guess it was November. I think right before Thanksgiving, the story hit that New World. It was the same weekend that we thought they were going to announce who the ag secretary was. And the first report, I think it was CNN that reported it. It was false. And then New World Screwworm, that, and then taking extreme measures on the border, that first happened in November. So I heard it, and I remember New World Screwworm, and I didn't know the potential impact because I hadn't heard of it. I mean, it's been 50 years, and so then I was doing some research on it, and just to think now, and I thought, oh, that's so far away, it's not going to get here, and then now to see how some of these governments haven't done enough. And that's why I asked that question about corruption, because, Colin did an interview with AgriTalk's Chip Flory, and he mentioned that. And there's some of that backstory there that I didn't realize. Like the government was charging planes extra money just to land. I thought the governments were doing everything in their power possible to stop the spread of this, and it's not happening. And so some of that backstory, but it's refreshing to hear NCBA, that is their priority right now. That is their focus, and they're doing everything that they can and working closely with USDA to get this under control. So anyway,
For sure.
all right.
Well, we did it. We wanted Tyne, I enjoyed it as always. thank you for joining us on Unscripted.
Yeah, it's always unscripted. I think you want me to send you some beef tallow?
Sure, I'll start using it on my face.
It
And then
tingles.
I'm gonna
It
send
tingles.
you. I'm gonna send you the French fry chapstick that we have here, and we'll trade.
Seriously?
Yeah.
James
Made
would
out of
love that.
potatoes. It's not made out of
James would
potatoes.
love that. I mean,
Smells like French
he,
fries.
he works for Simplot, big potato fan.
Smells like
He
French
would
fries.
he would love that. All right, you do that. I will
Okay.
send you beef tallow for your face that does tingle, so you know it's working. It does not smell like French fries. Okay,
It does tingle, so you know it's working.
that's what I
Make
thought.
sure you write that down, Zach.
Yeah,
That's
the first time I
important
put it
thing to
on.
remember in many facets of life.
The first time I
So
laid
you
it
know
on,
it's good.
I put it on. The first
It's
time I
got
laid it
real
on, I was
bits.
like,
It's got real bits of cow, so you know it's working.
listen, I put it on. I go to bed, lay down, and I'm like, it's tingling. I think this is working.
Must working. Well, your skin does look impeccably smooth.
Yeah.
Very
Thank you. It's the new regimen of beef tallow. So I just wanted to put a call out there.
All right. Well, appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching.
Till next time, live your life unscripted.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. You can dive into more of Unscripted on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and listen to it anywhere podcasts are found. I'm Clinton Griffiths.
And I'm Tyne Morgan. From all of us here at Farm Journal, keep it real as you live your life unscripted.
Unscripted is a production of Farm Journal Studios, where no one grows alone.